Hey, and what's up, everyone? I want to welcome you to episode 4 of the Improv Live, Fernando's Improv Blog podcast. And today I have a really special friend, someone I've known for a long time. I think since he was a teenager, maybe, at least a very young man. And he was funny then. And I'll tell you this, folks, he's funny now, probably funnier, because he's probably learned a lot. Please give it up for my good friend, Mike Ransom. Mike, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Thank you so much, man. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me be on. No, I was thinking about that too. I was trying to do like pre-work for the show, and I was like, God, I have known Fernando for so freaking long, and it seems like it. I mean, it's got to be over 10 years, 15
Oh,
years.
let's say, all right. I started doing improv at OCC like 2008.
2008. Okay,
Yeah,
and then I
and then
think
the
okay.
Safari 2010. We used to be Team Conflict to Safari. Was that 2010?
I want to say it was because I got on kind of the tail end of it. So I think it was 2010, 2011. But I mean, we've done we've
Oh yeah.
performed for like a bunch of different places, and from, coffee shops to, different theaters all around Orange County. And, you are so funny and so gifted with your improv and stuff, and you take the craft so seriously, and that's so like admirable. It's really cool.
Well, thanks, man. I have a deep respect for you too, because you're still doing it all these years, and you're still good. I
Thank
mean,
you.
like you're still funny. Like, well, the reason being is I'm sure. How many people have you and I seen come through the doors of our part of Orange County Improv, and you're like, oh, I love that guy, I love that girl, and then you never see him again, and
Right.
you're like, fuck, that percent potential, but maybe they just didn't want to pursue it. So like, that's its own other thing. But just the fact that there's a few of us who are still doing it from starting off together, or like around each other while we're starting off, that to me, that's just kind of cool. It's kind of like we're a generation or something like that.
Right. It was really cool just how kind of everything got together, like how everybody, it seemed like it was all around like that 2009 to 2011, where everyone just kind of were gelling at the same place. Cause I mean, I had like the group of friends that I started with back in high school and stuff. And then, you guys had a lot of people at OCC, and then it just kind of like melded into this big thing. Cause it's really cool to kind of capture that lightning in a bottle all at once, and it's kind of it is pretty rare.
You're right. It was kind of a right time, right place kind of thing. I don't think any of us were planning on it. It's just there was enough people who wanted to do improv in those spaces
Yeah.
who got together, and luckily those people were go-getters and like, let's do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I would, I don't know where I'd be in my career, my journey without those. Those were really just important, crucial early years, because something could have gone wrong. Who knows what could have happened?
Totally. And I think it's a lot of it is, you develop for a lot of people who do it. I mean, that I've met, they've had a lot of similar experiences where they kind of develop like who they are through improv. Like maybe they're not the most, kind of, expressive person when it comes to like their personal stuff, but they've used it as a tool to kind of create those friendships and then like cultivate those bonds and stuff, which is really cool. Like it's a real cool application, like we were saying, whether you're in it for a couple months, or you have long journeys, like that's the translatable skill, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that whatever reason you go into it, you're gonna get something out of it you weren't expecting. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I just I want to be a comedian. I know that improv is a way of getting into it, so that's why I did it. I didn't expect going into it to come out for all my friends.
Yeah.
Like all my friends for like life so far, or like just like people who like I've done all like amazing things with. That wasn't the goal, but it's been like the biggest outcome, at least the most sustainable one, besides having amazing time doing shows.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about that. It didn't like register with me. Oh, you're gonna make a bunch of friends.
Right, exactly. And it's funny too, because I think that that element of like, you're not expecting making these like lifelong bonds with the people that you're in. It's funny because it's like, that feeling like after you're done doing a show and someone tries to ask you like what was your favorite part of the show, and you can't really remember because you were so like in it, and or like maybe someone went to a show a couple weeks ago and they're like, oh, remember the time that you played that butcher and you sang that song, and you're like, what are you even talking about? I have no idea. But you can look back on it And the friends and the interaction that you have, that's the real kind of sense of like that's what's helps you get through. And that's staying, is all the relationships and sharing that intimacy with someone and being vulnerable. It's like you're in the foxhole with them.
You're right, man. And it's funny because the more you do it, the harder it may be to connect to people who aren't improvisers or comedians. At least for me, not saying you can't connect, but I remember I had a job once. I won't say which job, but I was working. I had another job, not this job. Sorry. Here's what happened. With improvisers, we riff, we banter, we talk, we have conversations that go from superficial to deep and back and forth. Like it's just it's a constant bounce, and
yeah,
like
absolutely.
that kind of conversation, it's hard to have with non-improvisers or comedians because sometimes people don't dig past the surface. We're just like, hey man, wasn't that interesting? They're like,
yeah,
it was.
yeah, you know what? It's great. Yeah, no, it's I agree. No, I totally agree. And it's just like it takes that kind of weird gene to just go and don't know what we're gonna do, don't know what's gonna happen, nothing's planned, but let's just see where the riff takes us. And it's funny, like with the team that I'm on, Instant Improv, we have like a Facebook message chat. We had one and now it's two. We have one for like, okay, let's do serious show stuff, and the other one is like let's just talk about whatever that we have going on, just a regular chat. But it's funny, like let's say you're at work, you see it in the morning, and then by 5:30 whatever, you look at it and you just scroll through 60 messages and you're like, how did we get here? What? And it's funny, it's really unique, like it's really it's cool. I really enjoy it. And like those group of friends are just so, they're the best. I can't really say anything
Well, no,
other than that.
I know you've been with that team for like a real long time. I wanted to talk about that because I really respect the longevity of your group, Instant Improv.
Yeah.
And because I've been on a lot of improv teams, and I feel like they're kind of like marriages. Sometimes it's like you have your honeymoon period, then you have like we're gonna have kids period. Then you're gonna have like, I don't know, we should probably separate. Not saying all marriages are like that, but I'm saying like improv teams, some of them have longer lives than other ones. So I'm wondering, what is it that you guys have made to make your team last so long?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, at least it's been about, for us, it's been about just the consistency of, where you have our set practice times, we have our, set performance time. The Improv Collective was, so kind to give us our consistent time slot, which is awesome. But I mean, I think it's 7 years, I want to say 7 or 8 years that the team's been around. And the first year I wasn't.
It's a long time for an improv team.
Yeah, it is.
Especially in Orange County.
Right. There's a lot that come and go. But I think the fact that we are such solid friends too, and the fact that we really just enjoy hanging out with each other, and like this is the common thing that we all have, is something that really helps with that longevity. So I mean, it's cool. We've had a lot of people come in and go in and out of the team. We had like you were saying, some people come and go and they do their own thing, and but we've had a lot of people who have been involved, like Matt Duran. He was one of the founders of the team, and now he's like editing for Smosh and doing all this stuff. Yeah, so he's everybody's kind of, everyone that comes through it and stuff is going on to do really great things and stuff. And the core kind of members that are still there, we just added Helene K. She's an amazing improviser. She's so funny. Have you worked with her?
I have. She is an amazing improviser. She's someone who's kind of like, let's just do it. Let's just go in there and jump in the pool and swim. She doesn't think about it. She just does it. I really respect that about her.
Yeah, she's definitely been a huge addition to the team. And it's funny because like she went to Vanguard, and Tivoli, one of the another founder of the team, they had like ran into each other briefly. And it's funny how like kind of then they had separated and gone their own ways, and now they're all back together. And it was funny. Helene actually, my first round of my second round of classes, I believe she took the Sunday repeating class at the collective. So it was funny, like seeing her then, and then now, she's on a performing team with us and stuff. So, it's just kind of funny how things come full circle in this small little community that we have.
No, that's really cool though. I mean, like, I think things like, especially here in Orange County, because it is small, it is an intimate community. Things do kind of come full circle. If it can happen, it can happen. Like just we were on that team safety safari,
Right.
right? And then
Exactly.
like I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't know I was gonna perform for you again after I left the team and all that stuff, or the team ended or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that we did years later, like I didn't perform for you for at least 3 years and stuff, but we did it again. It felt like no time had to pass by.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's the cool thing about being collaborative and being creative with people in that community. Like you were saying, how people can just go on riffs, and it seems like there's improvisers that, I haven't seen, for 5-6 years, but then, if we cross paths, or, I see him at a show, or see him at a show, I'm like, oh, hey, and it's just kind of like old times. So it's really a good kind of testament to how positive the overall community is, which is really cool.
No, it is a positive community because we're small. Everyone kind of knows each other. It's like a little neighborhood that we like. It's like a pop-up neighborhood.
Yeah,
that we make whenever we have shows. I do miss that. I do miss the like where whichever theater is a part of, you go and like I don't know. You see people you don't plan on seeing anybody. You just whoever's there is there.
Right.
And you'll talk to them. You'll hang out, and like I feel like that's getting harder and harder to do.
Right.
Just because our lives are so digitized through Facebook or like Google Calendars or whatever, that those spontaneous just interactions, like they're harder to come by. And it is planned that there's a show, but it's not planned who you're going to sit with, or
right,
talk about, or what's going to happen afterwards.
Exactly. And I mean, just being kind of a student of the game, it's just like just going to shows and looking at different styles and everything, and seeing what style you work, because it's like there's the cool thing about doing this is there's so many ways to do it, and there's not necessarily a right way, there's not necessarily a wrong way, but it's just going to shows, and a lot of that in which entailed going by yourself, and then you look and you're like, you see someone that and a lot of the people do go to shows by themselves. Like I don't know if you always kind of have that.
I mean, I'm kind of a solo writer. I'm sure you know that about me. I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I like to just go to random shows. You're right though. When you go to shows solo as well, I don't say like you're scouting talent, but just kind of like, oh wow, I haven't seen this person play as much, or I saw something new from this person, or this person's one of my favorites. They're gonna go do that thing I love that they always do, and It's funny because I think sometimes by watching someone on stage, it's easier to be their friend. Like, hey, you're hilarious.
Yeah.
Can I be your friend? Not that you say it that way.
Yeah.
But it's like there's like some sort of weird shared history already. I don't know how to put it.
Exactly. I mean, I definitely do agree. I mean, it is that shared history, that like look of like, hey, I respect what you're doing. Like, I respect your talent. Like, those were a lot of good decisions that you made. Like I would like to play with you more kind of in the future. And you're funny. It's funny that you mentioned the scouting talent thing, because we went and we saw a show at Vanguard, because we had kind of their house team, Popular Demand. We did a show with them, and then there was a couple people on the team where we're like, yo, like, I don't know what you're going to do after college, but you can definitely continue doing this. You're very good. And one of the players that we got to join on instant. That's Dylan. So he's the young one on the team.
He's fun. He plays guitar, right?
Yeah, I think he play mandolin. So it's like the hipster guitar.
He's a funny guy. I seen him. We did like a big selfie show where they opened up too. It was like you guys put it on, and then we were like second, and then I think they were first. Really funny guy.
Yeah. No, he's really funny dude. And I mean, I'm blessed. Like a lot of like everyone that I've performed with has been, so talented and giving, and it's just been, it's just been great being a part of kind of the community.
Well, dude, you're great in giving too. Like, you're very funny, like, like, and I say that from my heart. It
Oh,
would be
thanks,
hard
man.
to it would be hard to have you on here and like lie to your face. Yeah, you're very funny. No, man, you are hilarious, and you've been funny since day one.
Thanks. I
Um,
mean, yeah, it started all at, Marina High School. I mean, it started at Marina High School and with Jeff Ambus. He's, definitely one of the cornerstones of the community,
oh, he definitely
and
is.
has been
Yes,
for a long time, and it started with him and I and Ryan Keel. You
I remember Ryan.
Ryan
Ryan's a good
Keel?
dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
Ryan Keel.
course.
It was kind of us. We decided that we wanted, like, the school had no improv program. It had a theater program that at that time they weren't actually putting on performances. They just had
What?
one class. Yeah, it was one class. It was one theater class, and that's it.
What a
And
waste. That
yeah,
sucks. I feel bad for all those kids who like want to do theater.
totally. And it had this, the crazy thing is it had this huge room. It had this huge room, and it wasn't like an auditorium style, but it was the perfect black box setup. And it was just such a crime that it was being wasted. So, we all kind of put our heads together and we were like, hey, we really like doing this. Let's kind of start a club. And we had to go through all the logistics of, starting a club and then like getting the facilities use forms filled out. Like, we didn't have, I don't even believe that we had like a set advisor at the time. Like, it was just kind of like really going rogue and kind of figuring it out and doing it for ourselves. But I mean, it started with Marina Improv, man. That was kind of
That's what you guys were called, Marina
yeah,
Improv. I was thinking, what's
Marina
the name of that?
Marina Improv. Yeah. I mean, it was funny because I mean, if you wanted to do theater in the Huntington Beach School District, I mean, you would go to the APA program because they had all the funds, they had the resources, the huge auditorium, they did major musical productions, everything. So Marina was just kind of like an afterthought when it came to performing arts. And we were kind of like, well, this is kind of dumb. So we, decided to do that. We got a bunch of like-minded people together and, we started doing shows. And it was funny. Actually, I believe in our second year, we invited the Huntington Beach High School APA improv team to perform against us in that theater. And it was so funny. Like, if anyone is listening, I was at that show. It's that theater, that little black box could probably hold 50 people. I swear to you, I don't even know if it was just because I was young or whatever. I swear we got at least 175 people in there. Like,
I believe it.
people were sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor. It was our acting space. It was literally maybe 8 feet, if that, for two people. And it was just, everyone was right there. And it was just such, like, we did a whole sports thing. We had someone sing the national anthem before. It was like a really big, like, event. And that was so cool. Just the culmination of a lot of kind of sweat and hours and kind of doing that. So yeah, Marina Improv, man, it's where we
Well,
got to start.
knowing Jeff Ambus and how entrepreneurial and how much of a leader he is, I'm not surprised that him and you guys pulled all that off, because it's at the collective. I've seen those shows. I've seen those like shows where they're like standing room only,
Right.
and Jeff is involved in a lot of those shows. So I'm not surprised by that. That's kind of cool that that's where it began.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's at least there. And I think that, after high school, well, I mean, a lot of the inspiration came from a lot of us going to see Improv Schmimprov in Fullerton, because they've been around. God, talk about longevity. They have been around for years. They all came out of UCI, but I think it's been 16, 17 years, something like that. Like,
It's been a
they've
long
been around
time.
for a long time.
I remember I was still in high school, I think, when they were. I think I saw their first show ever. Not their first show, but like the first time I saw them,
Hmm.
when they were still at the Block, or I think what's called
Yeah,
Orange now. Used to
yeah,
at the Block. So
yeah, definitely. And I think I first show I saw there was when they had moved over to the Maverick, so where they're at currently. And it was funny. It was Ryan Keel. He would always drive, and we would always watch. We would go. It seemed like it was every Friday or every other Friday we would go, and it would just be, a bunch of high school kids staying out till like 1 a.m. seeing comedy shows and stuff. And it was really funny. And talk about the whole full circle thing, because Ryan eventually got on the team through auditions, and then years later I got on it. So it was that was kind of one of those moments in your journey where you're like, hey, this is kind of cool, and you're playing with the people that you saw and you kind of like looked up to as performers, which was really, really special.
That's kind of cool, man. Like, it's very special to have that moment where you go from being a fan and you have that middle phase where you're a student to being a performer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's for a long time you're in the stands, you're watching, you're like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. But you don't realize it's going to take time to get to that stage. Or you could get stage. Stage time isn't that hard to get by, but it's one thing to get to the stage and be good. That takes a long time. You get to the stage and just fail, what you should do, but it gets to a certain point. They're like, oh man, I feel comfortable up here. I feel more comfortable here than maybe in the States sometimes.
Totally. That was I totally get you. I mean, the whole thing about getting on Schmimprov, that was a rocky transition for me, because that, if you haven't seen a show there, they describe it as very like brawler style, because as an improviser, you're trained to support everyone's decisions and yes and positivity and move the scene forward. There it's more like a bunch of stand-up comedians doing improv together, and sometimes if you make a bad choice, it's very like they're very loose with the rules, and if you make kind of a bad choice, you might get called out on it. So like on stage, and that's super humbling, because it was kind of hard, because I came from that school of thought of like, support your team, if you're gonna give a gift, you're gonna get one back eventually. But that really wasn't the case in the beginning. And I remember specifically, we were doing a game called Game-O-Matic, and how that one works is you get initials from the audience and you make up a game, and the audience gets to vote whether or not they like your game. And if the audience cheers the loudest, we get to play the game. Okay. So at Schmimprov, they have a bar that's on the side there where they serve beer and wine and snacks and stuff. So I say my game. I go first. I say my game. My game sucked. I can't even remember what it was. It wasn't very good at all. Definitely sucked. And then the host, it just goes, all right. He goes, all right, everyone clap. There's no pity applause, so do not clap if you don't like the game. Who wants to see Mike's game? And he kind of gestures, and no one laughs. 0 people. No claps, no applause. It's literally 0 for like a second. And then there's a guy in the bar in the back, and perfect comedic timing, just goes, kill yourself. And everyone just starts laughing. Everyone just busts up laughing at this dude. And I'm like, oh, that was tough, because I was like, I remember the ride home on the 55. I was like, oh no, this isn't for me. Like the confidence was just shattered.
Oh man, but
yeah, they're ruthless, man.
Yeah, they are. But that's, you said though, that's their style. So what happened then? What happened for you to be like, I've seen these guys for years. I deserve to be up here. What was that choice? Was there a moment, or was it just like every week you came back and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna like get a little better this time, or like?
Yeah, it was kind of that mentality. It was kind of more like, I've seen these people perform. I've seen the electricity at the shows. I've seen like their crowd is so hot, with like they are just the most live crowd like ever. And going in front of that in that atmosphere, it was more of a challenge, because I was like, instead of being like, oh, it's fine, I'm not connecting, maybe this isn't for me, I was like, why am I not? Why is this happening? What is kind of the issue here? What is the block in kind of my all around well-roundness, I guess, improviser skills, I guess, or like, what is those tools that I'm not utilizing? And it was kind of a little bit of that moment. Like after that specific show, I remember I was just like, okay, screw it. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to have fun. And, I think from that moment, I think it just got better and better little by little. And then a lot of the other performers were starting to kind of like respect me, because I was the new guy on the team, and like everyone had been there forever. So then they kind of like respected a little bit more and a little bit more. And then now it's just like, we're all just kind of there together, and it's just, everything's cool. But I think that's something that is a skill for a lot of people that they don't really flex, or like a muscle that they don't flex, is that ability to not be afraid to go out and be entertaining and make those bold choices, and I think that some people might be a little bit pensive because they don't want to like step on someone's toes, or they don't want to, ruffle any feathers or anything like that. But it's like, as long as, you're performing and it's trust, and you understand, that it is give and take, and obviously you don't want to go to the full spectrum and just like bulldoze them, but it's having that wherewithal to, go out there and risk it and make a silly choice and make an interesting choice and see what really happens.
And dude, when you said bold, I was like, "That's Mike. You are a bold player.
Thanks.
You're not a bulldozer. You're just bold." I think you're right. You do make those big choices just from watching you play a bunch, and that's what makes people to laugh. Because I think sometimes with improv, we're told to be humble and respectful, and give gifts, like you said earlier, stuff. That's all great improv stuff. I think what happens is people sometimes interpret it as like, "Oh, I don't want to like get too much attention on myself," or
Right.
"I don't want to be too funny," or "I don't want to be the star," or anything. But sometimes somebody has to get it going.
Yeah.
Somebody just has to make a big choice, and then you could build a universe from that big choice.
Right. Exactly.
It's a bit of the, I don't know, it's a paradox in the improv world. Like, you have to be humble, yet you have to be bold.
Right. Exactly. And I think that it's going to help everyone that you're performing with, like through those bold choices and through those really kind of, it might seem a little bit out there, but it builds that trust, and it's like, okay, like, let's go, like, we can do this. And I think that, yeah, like what I was saying before, it's like, that's a skill that a lot of people don't really focus on, because there's not really like, you can't learn that really in a book, right? You can't just be like, it seems like, a lot of the other kind of, it's easy to tell people to give gifts and to, be collaborative and, lay the groundwork out of the scene first, and, all that. And it was funny. There was one particular time, it was when I was hosting the drop-in classes, and it was a scene, I believe the suggestion, we asked for a relationship, and I believe it was father-daughter, right? So it was a 3-person scene. 2 people started, I was on the side, and it was this nice, wholesome scene of a dad giving a bicycle to his daughter, right? And it was this nice, kind of really wholesome scene, but it really wasn't going anywhere aside from, this kind of base level thing. So I was like, okay, being on the side, I was like, what wrinkle can I really bring in? There wasn't really kind of an opportunity for me to come in. So the choice that I made, I decided to come in and be like a really sick kid, and was asking where my bike went, and someone stole my bike. So with that one particular phrase, it switched the whole dynamic of the scene to where the dad stole my bike to give to his daughter, because he wanted just to be the great dad. So then he was kind of like, oh, here we are. And it was kind of one of those moments where that really kicked off kind of like the crux of the scene. Like, it totally shifted wherever it was going to go. It totally shifted it, and it just kind of amped up the stakes. And I mean, that was really entertaining to watch someone who is kind of learning, and because I had taught this person at OCC with Ben for I believe it was a couple years. So I was like, okay, like, he knows the basics. He can now it's time to kind of take it to the next level and see how, you react when a player kind of gives you a curveball or something like that.
Dude, that's cool. So it's funny. I think sometimes with a gift, what you don't realize is that, like, it's not just one gift, it's multiple gifts, because the person, once you give them like something, they're going to be forced to like deal with it in the moment. And while they're dealing with it, they're speaking out loud, like, well, this because of that, and then because of that. And then the next thing you know, you have all kinds of information for the scene, just from this one strong choice. And you're doing a big favor for that person, because maybe they didn't have a character before. Maybe they were like, I don't know, mimicking someone they saw from a TV show or someone they know, but it's not coming from a genuine place of a character. It's just them mimicking something that they know works or they think works. But no, a character has to like have reasons for the shit they do.
Right, exactly. And that's so huge. I mean, as long as you have a reason, and it's like kind of a tip that it helps with like not breaking character and kind of staying committed. It's just, I believe, like, while I walk in to the scene, I make sure that the character I'm playing believes every single thing that they say, and that it's the absolute truth, and regardless of how absurd this truth is, it's just, this is the world that they believe, and it's not funny to them because it's the truth. Like, normally regular facts aren't funny to them, but whatever facts that I'm saying are the truth. Therefore, it's much easier to stay in it and be more focused if you kind of have that mindset, I found out.
No, yeah, I feel people break, and like if you're a new improviser, this will not make sense to you yet. But if you're a veteran improviser, this makes sense to you. I think people break because they just can't believe in what they're doing, because they're just like, man, this is crazy, huh?
Right.
Isn't this bonkers? You're like, I mean, it is bonkers from the audience perspective, but that's them. Let them be the audience. You can just be this crazy character. But if you find a reason why that crazy character is doing the thing they're doing, then you won't break because you're kind of caught up. You're like channeling this spirit or something.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, it's just it's just generally a good practice. I mean, for really anything that you do, just and kind of becoming more focused on your scene partner and stuff, is just having that level of, honesty and sincerity with all the crazy stuff you're saying.
You're right. It is honesty and sincerity, because although it's crazy, like, you can't expect the audience to believe in this character if you don't believe in the character. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, you're taking yourself out of your body in a way to have this other character come in. Yeah. And that allows the audience to just kind of relax and put their barriers down and enjoy the show.
Right. Because that's the thing, is like, I think it's looking at that audience perspective and being like, you'll have your improv purists that'll come to shows and they'll, appreciate all the choices that you make. And maybe you get a laugh from them that the normal audience member really wouldn't. But I mean, a lot of the times it's, guy and a girl want to go on a date, and they come in, and a couple wants to come in and they want to just be entertained, and they might not really appreciate those particular choices that you make. So it's just kind of looking at it from that perspective of the audience. Like, what does the audience want to see? Like, they came to a show, maybe they saw Whose Line Is It Anyway? Maybe they saw it on Groupon, maybe they, whatever. And they're like, oh, this can be fun. So it's just like being entertaining for that.
We're entertainers.
For those people. Yes.
We're entertainers. I will say that's a very like strong, I want to say like improv collective ethos is we're here to entertain. Like, yeah, we are. This is an art form, and take it serious, elevated, which we do. But it's also like, hey, man, like most of our audience, they're not improvisers. What's funny is in LA, I do a lot of improv in LA.
Yeah.
You just perform for other comedians. So there's a lot of meta comedy because
really
you have to make it enjoyable for them.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, here's a joke that only improvisers will get. Where in Orange County, it's like, no, these are not improvisers. These are just regular people who want to have a night off from their like fucking life.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, like you're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, you are doing tons of stuff in LA. So, I mean, I can imagine that transition, was that kind of difficult for you, or?
I did it very slowly. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I did it very slowly. It wasn't just like me going. Like, so your typical LA transition, and I respect a lot of my LA friends. Like, I mean, not all of them. I mean, not all of them like that. I mean, I respect all of them. I guess what I mean is, like, everyone you see in LA, Mike, the majority of them, they literally, LA is the end point for them. And I talked about this on my last podcast. A lot of people, either they're like, hey, I did a training program in my like hometown or in my college or whatever. They might go to New York or Chicago and do more comedy there. And then they'll come to LA when they're ready to get an agent or like take it more serious or something like that. So people literally uproot their lives from all over the country and, even across the road, like Canada, stuff like that.
Right.
Come do comedy in LA. And it's very humbling because you're like, that's next door for me.
Right. Exactly.
Like, for me, the transition was easy. Not easy, but like I took it slow because it's next door. But for some people, it's like, nah, man, I literally moved here from Michigan, moved from Canada, New York, Texas, Florida. I got a lot of Texas friends.
Really?
Yeah. But they're here because it's like, this is where I need to be to do that next level of comedy or next level of acting or to break into the entertainment business through some aspects. So I respect a lot of them. I respect all of them, don't get me wrong. But it's just like, it's a level of commitment that you're like, fuck, this isn't a game for you. We're like in Orange County, It's like it's home. We lucked out being born here, being
Right.
raised here, you know,
Yeah.
and like we just lucked out. We found good people who love comedy. We're like a lot of people. It's like, nah, I'm coming to LA because this is the final step in my journey, or it's the next step for me to do that thing I really want to do.
Right.
Yeah, like I have friends who like, oh, I got staffed in the writing job. That's like a new thing. Or, you know, my film won like a film festival.
Hmm.
Or like someone I know that knows someone, they got on SNL. Or there's like someone you're like, oh, that person's on SNL. I saw them perform like a year ago at the Clubhouse. But like,
Dang.
yeah, and but you're happy for all of them. That's the thing. I am happy for everyone's success, but you're just like, fuck, it's pretty amazing, you know? So like,
Right.
it's two different cultures. Like in Orange County, there's a bunch of amazing improvisers, and some of them I'll say they're better than any LA improviser. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but LA just has so many fucking improvisers, like
Right.
hundreds. I don't know, maybe thousands. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game. But I do love Orange County though, because it's like it's community. It's like family. You all know each other. Even the theaters you're not part of. Someone says a name. Oh, I heard of that person.
Right.
You know, like it's like we all kind of know each other. So like I don't know. It's two different experiences, but yeah,
Yeah.
my transition was like it was slow, and then one day I realized it's like, oh shit, 90% of the stuff I do is in LA. It's just the one thing LA has compared to Orange County is you could do a show there literally every day if you wanted to.
Really.
At
Okay.
least when things were going on, like there's literally shows 7 nights a week.
Yeah, I mean with everything going on now, I mean that was one of the biggest things that was a challenge for me. Like I was going, doing shows. God, it seemed like pretty much
You're performing a lot.
yeah, it's like maybe seven shows a month, 7 shows a month. And I
that's a
mean,
lot of shows even for LA, man. That's a lot
right.
of shows. That means you're performing 1.5 times a week or something like that.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it was pretty tough. I mean, it was a lot of performing. I mean, with Shum Improv, they go every Friday night. Instant Improv, they do first Saturday, I believe, of the month. But I was kind of going, and then I was teaching for a little bit too at the collective, doing the drop-ins. That was really fun. But with anything, you reach a certain point where you're like, man, I'm feeling a little burnout. So I was kind of contemplating on taking a little bit of a break, to really kind of, revitalize and, really kind of get my head straight. And, sure enough, something happened, something came up and it had to be put off for a little bit, but then, the pandemic hit and, it's tough. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how everything shakes out. Because I mean the Attic Theater, Instant Improv was playing at the Attic Theater in Orange County for I believe we had a residency there for a year and a half, and they're no longer operating anymore, and that was really sad. That was a pillar of a lot of different shows. Yeah, a lot of different shows and stuff have been performed there. A lot of people all over Orange County and LA would play there. And it's really tough, but I mean, the collective, they've done a lot of the stuff with the Kickstarter and everything, and the GoFundMe, just to really make sure that it thrives, post pandemic. So I mean, that's something that's really cool. It's interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
What's nice about improv is it's cheap.
Right. Exactly.
It's fucking cheap.
It's totally. It's funny. It's like, how for so long, it was $5 for a ticket, like for so long. And, the people want to do it for free, and all you need is some chairs, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we've done shows, or we've practiced at like patios on coffee shops and in this German village, Old World.
I remember that. Oh man.
Yeah.
Amir was the man's name. Very nice guy. I forgot his last name, but he hooked it up there. Guy was an angel.
Yeah. It sucks. It's a hookah lounge now.
It is.
Yeah,
I haven't been to Old World in the longest time. Like after we lost that space, I stopped going.
Yeah.
I go every now and then. There's some cool stuff around there, but I haven't gone a lot. Interesting thing, we'll talk real fast. How have you adapted and transitioned to this new world we're living in? Because I think I think a lot of comedians are figuring out, like, how am I going to keep doing comedy? And I think I have a lot of friends who are like, you know what? I'm not going to do Zoom shows. I'm not into it. I haven't seen anything I like.
Right.
Other friends are like, I'm not in an emotional space because of the quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter,
Yes.
stuff like that, where I don't feel like I can create right now. A lot of friends who are like that. Other friends are like, I'm going to keep creating no matter what. But maybe they're not like creating in the way that they want to.
Yeah.
But you guys have transitioned though, right? Instant improv is.
Yeah.
You talk about that?
Yeah. So I guess when this whole thing started, we took before the theaters were closing, out of respect, we were like, hey, we want to be on the right side of this. So let's take a break from doing our shows. We would do shows at the Collective and then at the Amazing Comedy Theater in Huntington Beach. So we would do shows there. Amazing Comedy Theater, I believe it was once every 2 weeks, I believe. And then I'm having a hard time figuring out what the schedule and the breakdown was like. But we kind of said, we let them know, like, hey, we kind of want to take a break from doing this. Everyone should social distance and all that stuff. But then, when the theaters actually start to close and stuff, we were kind of thinking like, okay, what can we do to, still kind of be creative or whatever. And the idea came up of like, what if we do like a variety show, or like, what if we do, like, we have this digital space now, like, what if we do some sort of like segmented thing? Because the straight improv shows, from top to bottom, how they would traditionally work, I personally am not a huge fan. I haven't seen one that has been consistent. I mean, there's sometimes some performers will play games and stuff and it'll be really fun. Otherwise, it's just so difficult to keep the energy up through this Zoom platform, which was a challenge. So what we decided to put on a variety show where we had, some music. We had kind of just showcased our talents a little bit, different segments, and we ran it on Facebook Live, and we got a lot of good feedback. We got a lot of good feedback there, and we said, okay, well, kind of reading the tea leaves here, we were like, okay, the world isn't going to be back to normal for a while, when we decided to do this back in April or whatever. So we were like, what if we do just more like a podcast style improv hybrid thing where we'll kind of figure it out as we go. We'll have some segments, it'll just be us talking, because I think that that's the best part of kind of our team relationship and our team dynamic is, I mean, the team motto was, fun people doing fun things. That's kind of the idea that the team is kind of rallied behind. So we just decided to, let's go every Thursday at 7:00. We're going to do a show. So we're on Facebook Live, 7:00 Thursday nights. And we'll do for about an hour. We'll have a bunch of different fun segments. We'll play some improv games. We usually play like one or two improv games. And then, we'll do something, a little bit different, like depending on what we all come up with throughout the week. So we kind of are proud that we kind of pioneered that kind of hybrid style. I believe in Orange County, I didn't see really a lot of other teams doing it quite yet. And we're really kind of happy that a lot of other teams are transitioning to that style. Like I saw Lady Bits, a team in Orange County, and they did a improv show on Facebook Live, and it was very funny. They did a lot of really good stuff, and shout out to that team. They really crushed it.
Lady Bits is a great team. A lot of love on that team, and I love that team. Lady Bits is awesome. I'm happy that they're doing shows, and I guess they were inspired by you guys partly, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I would feel like it's eventually kind of like a natural progression, right? Like, you'll see like, okay, maybe if you weren't as proactive, the performer gene in the back of your head is just like, shoot, I need to figure out something. So like you were saying, it's either, you either take a break, you don't do it, you just chill, and you wait for it all to be over, and maybe you pick it back up, or like, hey, we want to make sure that we are still relevant when things come back up, so we can kind of hit the ground running. So I mean, a lot of teams have been kind of coming up and doing that, and it's really exciting to see everybody's kind of interesting take on this platform, and really kind of push themselves to think outside the box.
Well, I think that's really cool. Because the thing is, I think it's gonna take a while, I think, for everyone to get on the digital show train.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a different way of performing. I've done more Zoom shows now, and there is a way that you can make it fun and challenging and creative.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like what the stage was. And I think if you go into it thinking, I want this to be the stage, you're going to be disappointed every time, because it's not. It's different. It is a stage, but it's not the actual physical black box theater or whatever. It's this window that's like this big, and you have like this much space. I mean, you could do maybe zoom out or something.
Yeah.
But like, and nothing that's cool as well. But like, you have to kind of embrace these new limitations.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, we learned that was trial and error. I mean, when we started doing the shows, we just did our 15th show yesterday.
Are you serious? That's
yeah,
awesome.
15.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So for 15 weeks straight. So we've been doing that, and we kind of just learned as we went, and just like really actively looked at the product and being like, okay, what if, we all kind of trained ourselves like, hey, maybe if you're doing a show, right, and you got 8 improvisers up there and 2 people are doing a scene up front, you're not focused on the back line. But when there's only 5 people and 2 people are talking, and you're looking at it from your phone or your computer, and you see all 5 people's reactions all the time there, like, you could tell way harder if you kind of space out for a little bit, or you're not active in the conversation. So we had to kind of train ourselves a little bit just to be like, be like very active and very engaged. And it's for that whole hour, it is a little bit of a challenge that we kind of work through and stuff. So I mean, the quality of that, and something like making sure that everyone's cameras are the right aspect ratio to where it like looks cleaner, or everyone's computer audio or mic levels are roughly the same, because we're doing it live. So we want to make sure that everyone's heard, and stuff. So it's been some trial and error in the beginning, but I think we got kind of the formula down for what works for us. So that's been a real blessing. And to the team, major kudos for having that collaboration, and and being open to change, and work and retool, and be open to criticism and stuff, because that's the worst part. I hate doing the criticism thing. It sucks. Like, it's not in my skill set to be criticizing someone's creativity. Like, that's really that's sucky.
No, I feel you. As a sketch team director, and like sometimes improv coach, learning how to give notes is a separate art form, because you have to be careful with people's feelings. You don't want to hurt anybody, but at the same time you want to help them improve. So I feel you. It's a tough skill.
Right. And I mean, early on with the coaching thing too, like that was something that I had to learn through was, I mean, I would be a little bit more difficult with the notes. I think I would be a little bit more hard, and I was kind of, with you, like, hey, you're taking the class for a reason. You paid money for a reason. You need to kind of get that instruction and kind of the little tips and stuff. And it's definitely a fine line that you have to do. But I mean, I just look at it like, hey, you're committing your time to do this. The least that I can do is be honest with you, and kind of in your feelings, I guess.
Well, what's cool about you is you're good at improv. So if people take your notes, it's because they respect you, because they know you can do it. So,
Thanks.
I think it's cool that you're trying not to be harsh. I think sometimes we get caught up in our improv egos, and I'm guilty of this.
Right. Totally.
We're like, man, you know how badass I am? You suck. Ha ha ha. And right. I'm sure I've done it to people. It's been done to me.
Same.
And it's not cool. It's not a cool thing. And I'm glad that I feel like maybe it comes to maturity, or some people never graduate, but some people do. But if you are going to be a teacher, especially, you do have to be encouraging while being critical. Like, you do have to learn how to, like, hey, keep doing it, but you should really work on this aspect. And it is an
Right.
art form to figure out, how do you encourage someone to improve on this thing? Like, how do you make it sound like, hey man, it's in your best interest to develop the skill?
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that touching on that improv ego thing, I mean, that was the Achilles heel for me, kind of towards the middle of the journey to this point. It was like I had this kind of mentality that I was like hot shit, and it was not good. It was
We all
definitely,
had that mentality though.
I get it, man. I
There's a
get it.
point we all had fucking outrageous super egos.
Right. It was nuts. But then, Ryan Keel, he recommended a book to me. It was How to Be the Greatest Improviser on Earth by Will Hines. I
Oh, I
read it.
have that book. I've read
Yeah.
like read the first chapter, but not all of it. Is it worth the read?
Oh, totally. There's a part where it's he talks about like what kind of player, like performer that he wanted to be, and he wants to be the type of performer that could have a great scene with anyone, whether they're just starting or whether that they've been a veteran for 10 plus years. And that element is that kind of rung true, because I was like, it's easy to limit yourself to be like, I only want to play with good people, or like I really want to just play with new people or whatever. But it's just kind of having that mentality of, you know we're all learning together and we're all growing together, and the it's all we're all experiencing this shared vulnerability together. So it's like having the respect for that kind of puts it all into perspective.
Well, I will say this. When you were younger and I met you, you were kind of a hot shot. I was kind of a hot shot too. I have to admit that on my own.
Yeah.
But when I met you again after like a few years of absence, you did seem a lot more like grounded.
Yeah.
Like you say, you seem more. Hey, I'm just like I have a gift, but that doesn't give me license to be a jerk. I'm just lucky to have this gift.
Right. And that was huge. That was a huge hurdle. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's just, you just got to be, cognizant of it, and, just understand that, yeah, like we're all sharing the stage, we're all sharing this vulnerability, and, it's an honor to, share that with whoever kind of I play with and stuff.
I liked it a lot. Well, Mike, we're nearing towards the end here, and there's one thing I want to ask you.
Hmm.
What's going through your head when you're on stage? Because you're one of the most charismatic guys I've ever seen.
Thank you.
You are very charismatic. And like, I don't know, charisma is a weird intangible. I don't. It's hard to teach, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, what's going through your head though? Or like, are you thinking? Are you not thinking? Just in the moment? What's going on?
Yeah. A lot of it is kind of in the moment. A lot of it is really in the moment, or like I've learned to ignore that voice in the back of your head that is telling you that your compulsion is wrong. Like your intuition is wrong. Like, it's once you trust that, like, because you can go in and you have a freaking great idea and a very funny wrinkle, but to a scene, and you'll maybe sit on it because you're like, I don't know if it's really the right choice, and you'll start guessing yourself. Like, what was it? I think, to quote the philosopher Stone Cold Steve Austin, if you're thinking, you're stinking. So that's what he kind of said. So I think it's just being in your head, and kind of I kind of think too, like, would I laugh at this? And if I decided, like, if I think that, like, if something that I do that I like, what was it yesterday? It was so dumb. We played the dating game yesterday on our Zoom show, and my character was the moon, and I was like, I don't know. I love playing characters that are inanimate objects, or are something that characterizing something that doesn't really, that isn't a human. Like, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
It's my favorite, my favorite thing. But yeah, the kind of bringing that element and bringing that level of, like, that level of kind of controlled chaos, and knowing, like, and just going out there and just having fun. And sometimes, like with my friend Austin that's on Instant Improv, some of the choices I will make just because I want to see him break. And I love it because that's my goal sometimes is when I see him break, because he's such a serious, Austin, he's such kind of like a serious player. And, he'll do some goofy shit sometimes, but he's a very, like he tries to focus on not laughing so hard. But like, if I could do something to kind of make him break, I think it's pretty, it's pretty worth it. But I think kind of, I guess in summary, it's, going out there and not thinking and literally responding to what you hear, and play to your partner's energy, and really just kind of focus on, maybe you have an initial idea, but wherever that idea can take you, that is up to you to figure out. It's like the plane's flying in the air and stuff's flying off the plane, but you and your partner are trying to fix the plane as it's going, and you don't really have all the tools to do it. So you might try to use a different thing. Maybe you're not going to use some nuts and screws. Maybe you're just going to use a banana piece or some, I don't know, whatever. But I'm trying to do that. I think that's for me what kind of goes through my head.
Mike, that was the perfect response to end this interview. Thank you so much. That was great. I learned a lot about you, man. I've come to have a new layer of respect for you. I respected you a bunch, but now there's like a whole other human being besides underneath the guy I already know. Before we go, is there any plugs? When can we watch these Zoom shows?
Yeah, 7:00 on Facebook Live, at Instant Improv on Facebook. Also, we have an Instagram at Instant Improv on there. So yeah, check us out where you do.
Is it on Thursdays?
Thursday, yes, Thursday at 7 p.m. and it's all family friendly. So definitely bring you can bring the kiddos. We have a lot of different people watch with their whole family and stuff, and it's really cool. So definitely, I love it, and we're gonna continue to keep doing it until we can see each other again.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that, everyone. I'll put the links for that in the description below. Please follow Instant Improv. Check out their shows, Family Friendly Improv, which is really cool, especially in these crazy times we're living in. Please like this video, like the podcast, follow me on everywhere, and it's been great talking to you. This has been The Improv Life, Fernando's Improv Blog Podcast. I'm Fernando with the great Mike. Take care and goodbye.